it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm here for the Scrapbook Nerd online shop, and I'm going to be creating a 12 by 12 layout featuring the Simple Stories Heart Eyes collection. I'm going to be creating a layered look and talking you through the steps because creating this type of layout is much easier than it looks. Here is the material I'll be using. I have paper and embellishments from the Heart Eyes collection. This one is a love-themed, fun, and very colorful. The last time I checked, these products were available at the Scrapbook Nerd, so I'm going to put links to the shop along with the products I use in the description box below. So let's get started. And you're going to see on my desk in advance, I prepared a frame style foundation page with 3 sheets of paper. I gutted 2 of them. There is a tutorial on my channel where I explain how to do that, so that's going to be listed and linked below. I did mat 3 photos in black cardstock. Now I'm going to show you the paper I'll be using. That pink cardstock and the black and white diagonal print, I gutted that from behind my foundation page. Here are the other papers I've selected. You can see in February I did a good job on that sticker sheet. In this tray, I have a bunch of embellishments. I have ephemera, I have chipboard. That's a cut apart sheet. That's great for creating layered looks. I also have some self-adhesive brads and chipboard. That's a sticker alpha book from Simple Stories, and also from my stash, I pulled in a Viewmaster wheel along with a few doilies. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut up a few papers, and this is going to form the first layer in my layered layout. And I will put measurements on the screen for these page parts a little bit later on. I do want to talk about layered looks because I used to be intimidated by them. I would look at a completed layout with a layered look and think where to start because it looked so complicated. But at one point, I changed my mindset and I basically separated the layout. What I did was I literally started thinking one layer at a time. And when I did this, it made it so much easier. You can see for that pink paper there, I gutted a piece of 12 by 12 paper. That's because I have a plan for that paper for a future project. Now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of ink to all of these page parts. Now when creating layered looks with lots of different pattern papers, I find a little bit of ink goes a long way. It just helps create a cohesive look. Now what I'm going to do is start building my layout. You can see I have my embellishing around me, my base layer with these 3 pieces of paper along with my photos. So what I'm going to be doing here is forming what I like to call a triangle layout. You can see I'm basically forming a triangle and it's going to be pointing towards the right. What I'm going to tuck at the far right there is a circular piece. So that's, in my case, a Viewmaster wheel and a doily. And that's kind of like the point of my triangle, so to speak. It's not very pointy, but in my case, it's round. Now I have my first 2 layers. That's the 3 pieces of paper and the circular element. Then I have my photos. That's the second layer. Now what I'm going to do is add to this and add smaller bits. So you saw what I did was I cut from that sticker sheet that 12-inch border strip. I'm not sure how long I want it. That's why I cut it at this point. And then what I will do when I decide on the length of the border strip, then I will actually cut it and adhere it to the page. Now I'm going through my ephemera pieces and my cut apart sheet. So my first layers are fairly big. The next layer here is going to be smaller, but I will come in with smaller pieces on top of these later on. So I have some ephemera pieces. You saw that I tucked in one behind the photo at the top there. Now I'm tucking in a mint library card at the top as well. I tucked that between 2 of the paper layers, that polka dot paper and the orange paper that are in that vertical strip. And it is also on top of that pink block that's to the right and underneath my photo. There's 2 things I want you to look at here. I am working within the layers. So I'm tucking some behind layers, some between layers, and eventually you'll see some go on top of layers. Also, if you look at that area in the top left, you will notice in a minute anyway, that a lot of those layers are staggered. What I'm avoiding here is anything falling at the same level. I want all of those pieces to be kind of staggered, to all be a little bit different. And overlapping, like I mentioned earlier, along with staggering, that all adds to the interest in a layered look. So you just have to be aware of that when you're building. You also have to be aware it's just one layer at a time. Right now, I'm adhering my base layer with those 3 blocks of paper. I actually come in, I cheat a little bit, and I add that border strip right away just because it's easier. And then I come in with my photos and the smaller layers. But again, separate it. It's just one layer at a time. And the result is something that looks fairly complex. I would also like to mention the adhesive I'm using. I am using those Easy Runner strips, I think they're called. I will link them up in the description box below. It's a permanent adhesive, which is important to scrapbooking because you don't want your elements to fall off your page in a year or so. So you want it to stick, but when creating layered looks, it does help to have an adhesive, in my opinion anyway, that doesn't bond instantaneously, because when you're creating layered looks, you're always tucking and lifting just to add pieces underneath and in between layers. So having an adhesive that gives you a little bit of wiggle room, like the one I'm using here, does help when creating layered looks. So you can see I've adhered my base layer down. I've adhered that border strip down. I'm not pressing too hard, even though I like my adhesive, because I know I'm going to want to come in and add some more layers later on. I adhered my photos down on that border, along with some ephemera pieces along that border. You may notice the pink one that comes out from behind the photo and on top of that photo mat up on the left. I cut it in half and it comes out from the bottom as well. And at the bottom, that's actually going to be where my journaling goes later on. So I have everything kind of adhered at this point. However, I do want to add some more layers. I'm going to work on this title right now. So I'm getting out this sticker book from Simple Stories. There are 6 different color alphas in this book, and for each color there are 3 alphas. So there are 18 alphabets in this little book, but they are very fragile. I personally like them because I like them for adding to titles, for multi-word titles when I have small words in them. I find they are nice and flat to the page. They pair well with more significant words, like in my case, my title is going to be Made with Love. Love is from the chipboard collection. They are from the chipboard and self-adhesive brad sheet. I want that one to stand out more, but I want Made With, the other 2 words, to just be kind of in the background. So those alpha books are great for that. I'm happy, however, that I did place it on wax paper. You can see I placed Made With on wax paper to play around with placement. I was careful not to press down too hard because I didn't want to manipulate those letters too much. Like I said, they are fragile. But in placing it on wax paper, I was able to play around with placement a bit. And in doing so, I realized I wanted to move that Viewmaster and doily down a bit. So off camera, I continued adhering Made With. It was just easier without the tripod on my head. And now what you see me doing is adhering the word love. But for love, I'm going to pop it up on foam adhesive. And once again, I'm going to be overlapping. You're going to see when I place the word love, it's going to overlap my photo. And like I mentioned earlier, when creating layered looks, it's fun to tuck some things behind elements, some things between elements, and some things overlapping elements. It all adds to texture and interest on the layout. Now I'm ready more or less for my finishing layer. I am going to be adding some, yet again, smaller pieces. You see me tucking in a few pieces of ephemera towards the bottom of that vertical border with the photo. So I'm doing it kind of in the middle. I'm tucking the word love. It's a piece of ephemera behind the behind the orange paper, but on top of that border sticker that you see. Now I'm tucking in a pink ticket. That is between the orange paper and the black photo mat. Later on, I will come in with another sticker, a word sticker, and that will go between the photo and the photo mat. So again, I'm working with all the layers. Now I'm looking for a hit of black for the top of that vertical border. So I found a word sticker that says, "All of me loves all of you." Now I will have another hint of black when I do my journaling underneath that vertical border strip. So now what you see me doing is coming in with some staples. So I add a few staples just for the fun of it, for a final layer at the top there on one of those ephemera pieces. I put 2 staples and one at the bottom just to the left of the journaling. I forgot to mention, I added a little heart sticker that I popped up on foam adhesive just to the right of the title, just to the right of the word love. So this is my finished layout. Off camera, I added my journaling, of course, and 1 mint word sticker in the bottom left. That created a visual triangle with the other 2 mint embellishments, that library card in the top middle, and that doily that's on the far right. If you find creating layered looks intimidating, remember this. Think of the layers 1 layer at a time. Don't be afraid to overlap. That definitely adds texture and visual interest to your layout. And also stagger the layers so they're not all lined up like I did in the top left. Work with the layers, tucking pieces behind, in between, and on top of page elements. And most of all, have fun doing it because it's a great way to play with product. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up, if you like the video, of course. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the Scrapbook Nerd YouTube channel, we would be thrilled if you did. The same thing for my channel, Scrapbooking Quebec. Don't forget to check out the Scrapbook Nerd online shop for these fun supplies and more. Take care, and I will see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.